Well, folks, welcome to another edition of JT's Picks. Tonight, I would like to talk about another device. Last time I talked about the Wii U games that were ported over to the 3DS. Kind of a neat little episode to help send off the 3DS as Nintendo has discontinued support for that portable device, now focusing mainly on the Switch and the Switch Lite. Fingers crossed that we do see a Switch Pro in the near future, but that's discussed. Nothing confirmed. It's not looking like it's going to happen in 2020. But who knows? Nintendo's been known to hold back a few things and then surprise us around E3 time, so maybe we'll see a big surprise at E3. I know there's a lot of IP coming out this year, great games from third party developers as well as first party developers within the Nintendo group themselves. But tonight I want to talk about another portable device, a big library. Uh, was around for a very long time. Started out in 1989 with that lovely green and black dot matrix screen. I had my first portable Nintendo in 1989, that gray brick. The thing is solid, had a long battery life, a huge library, and I'm very excited to do this episode tonight because I've had some recent pickups. I love to go treasure hunting for these portable games, and tonight I'm focusing on the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. So I'm going to start off with my collection. I picked out a handful of games that really resonate with me because I love the 8-bit era. The NES was so much fun, and the fact that Nintendo has this uncanny ability to put a video game on just about anything. We've seen it on smartphones lately with much success. That there's such a specific library out there, it's hard to gather up all these games. You see them on this YouTube craze, all these people buying games and completing their collections. I'm not in it for that, but I do have some favorites that I'd like to showcase tonight. So I'm going to start off with one that I brought in from Japan. Reason being I brought this game in from Japan is because the North American version is very expensive. Last time I seen it on eBay, it was worth well over $100. I'm a single father, so over $100 is a substantial amount of money. So I went on eBay and purchased this one from Japan. The nice thing about the Game Boy is it's region free, so no matter where you buy that cartridge, it's going to work in your system. So, my first pick tonight is Rockman World 5, better known in North America on the Game Boy systems as Mega Man V. So, I did pick this up recently on eBay. Very fun game. It has a standalone story. They're not robot masters, they're star droids. There are 8 that you have to compete against, and then a ninth one, of course, at the end. I don't want to give any spoilers just for those fine folks out there that may not have played this game, may have no knowledge of this game. I would recommend picking this up. Like I said, it's a standalone story. It's not like previous renditions of NES Game Boy versions that were brought out that are very similar to their NES brethren. This one is a standalone. It's an awesome game to play. Very tough as well, but it maintains the true Mega Man flavor as well as passwords. So the continuing from where you left off is very possible. Like all Mega Man games back in the 8-bit era, they had passwords, so you could resume where you left off. So solid game. I paid $30 for this. It's region free, so it's a great pickup. I would highly recommend if you want to get this in your collection. That's a decent route to go. It's a very affordable, economical route to go, and I'm playing the same game. For the little bit of text that you would have to read in this, as there is some dialogue, go on YouTube, get some video of the English version and read it. I mean, you'll pick up the storyline pretty quick. As for a standalone game itself, it's awesome. Great storyline. It's well worth playing to the end. And yeah, I would have loved to seen this on the NES. My next game, of course, is a port from the Super Nintendo, and the fact that they could take this game and make it from 16-bit to 8-bit and maintain such an excellent quality for graphics and then the chiptune sounds are phenomenal. The music in the background, everything. I had to have this game. I have it on the Super Nintendo. I love it. I've beaten it, and Rare came up with some amazing graphics back in the early to mid '90s, both on the Super Nintendo and on the Game Boy Color. Eventually, when this was ported over, Donkey Kong Country. It's a series that resonates with so many people from my generation. When the Super Nintendo was in its heyday, all of a sudden we had the PlayStation come out, and now you've had a 32-bit machine. You've seen third-party developers kind of transitioning from the 16-bit over to the 32-bit, so they were abandoning Nintendo software or hardware. Sorry. This game is tremendous. It's large, and they kept pretty much everything in the game and made it 8-bit, and it's just phenomenal. The graphics are intense, but I love it. To play it through, this is a much more difficult game than to play on the Super Nintendo. I find the controls are a bit touchy, but this game has so much replay value. It was really cool to see it in 8-bit and in color, and I mean, they utilized every color possible in that machine. They pushed it to its limits on the Game Boy Color. Fantastic game, no matter what console you're playing it on, or even on Virtual Console. I highly recommend adding this one to your Game Boy/Game Boy Color collection. Next one on my list, of course, Nintendo has a rich history. It dates back to 1987 with the first Legend of Zelda, and then Zelda 2. I call it the black sheep of the family. Side-scrolling, a little bit overhead gaming. But this one here, I believe, was initially supposed to be a port of The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past from the Super Nintendo, and was for the Game Boy, or initially for the Game Boy, and then they did another version. It's Link's Awakening DX. This is the colorized version. It will play on a regular Game Boy, but also it will play in the Game Boy Color in full color, and amazing. Like what they did with this game, you would swear it was 16-bit. The top-down play is phenomenal. The sprites are bright, very detailed. The gameplay, the storyline, it keeps you locked. The dungeons that you get to go through, and they added a color dungeon to it, so it actually had some bonus material as well, which is something Nintendo's very famous for when they re-release any upgrades or any of their IP that they've done any kind of upgrade to. They always add a little bit more to it to give it more replayability. This is an awesome game. I would almost have to say that this is quite possibly either my second or third favorite Zelda game out there. So I would love to play this again, and I think I might. But definitely one that you would want to add to your collection on the Game Boy or Game Boy Color. That's a nice thing. It'll play on both consoles, so it's a win-win. Next up, I acquired Mega Man Extreme. So once again, you have a 16-bit game that they've kind of modified but ported over to the Game Boy Color, and this one in particular will play also on a regular Game Boy. So Mega Man Extreme, I love the X series. The first three games on the Super Nintendo were massive games. The first one especially was just, they reinvented the wheel with Mega Man, the Blue Bomber. With Mega Man X, he was just the next generation of Mega Man, and the storyline was awesome. There was a few bumps in the road after it transferred over to the Sony family. But this one in particular, I've had a lot of fun with it. I prefer to play it in color. But the nice thing is, with this one in particular, you can also play it on your Super Game Boy, which is great if you want to play it on the big screen as well. So, gives you some options. It's backwards compatible with the Game Boy, as well as playable in full color on the Game Boy Color. And since I bought Mega Man Extreme, it only seemed right that I would go the distance and purchase Mega Man Extreme 2. Fantastic game. Only playable on the Game Boy Color, not compatible with the Super Game Boy on the Super Nintendo to play it on the big screen. But it's a continuation of a great series, and it's portable. You can take it anywhere. As I said, the battery life on these systems are phenomenal. like hours upon hours of gameplay. You don't have to worry about that battery dying on you within like double-digit hours. So it only made sense that I went and got Mega Man Extreme 2. And I mean, there's characters from both Mega Man X and X3 on here as well, and some from X1. And there's also individuals that show up from Mega Man X4. As you remember, Mega Man X4 is available on the PlayStation as well as the PC. Great game to have in your collection. This is a recent pickup as well. This is an eBay buy because they're hard to find around here in some of the thrift shops that I've been to, or the buy and sell. So happy I picked this up. It's a fun game, very playable. Controls are smooth like all Mega Man games. I look forward to revisiting this one as well, but it's definitely one I wanted to have in my collection, and I highly recommend to have in your collection as well. Next up, this is a port of probably what started it all on the NES, and it's Super Mario Bros. Deluxe. It's the original Super Mario Bros., now portable. This was the first portable version that came out. Now, these days, you have Virtual Console, so you can just download it and play it and store it, what have you. But this gave it the opportunity to take it on the road with you, and they kept everything basically as it's meant to be. The sounds, the colors, the story, everything. Graphically, it's the same. It's ported over perfectly. But they've also included a little surprise. Once you complete the game, you can also unlock the Japan version of Super Mario Bros. 2, of course, here in North America. It's anyway, we won't get into that. This should have been Super Mario Bros. 2, the Lost Worlds, as they call it here in North America. It should have been released as Super Mario Bros. 2. Not knocking the North American Super Mario Bros. 2. I love that game. That was one of my favorites growing up. But it was easy. Anyway, this is a must-have in your collection as well. It's only playable on the Game Boy Color, but definitely one you want to add to your Game Boy collection. Getting down to the end of my pickups, basically a spin-off from the Super Mario World or Land series on the Game Boy. If you remember Super Mario Land 3, the lead character was Wario. So this kind of became a spin-off from that. And this one here is for the Game Boy Color only. It's a fantastic game. The gameplay, the replayability is fantastic. The challenge is very optimal. It's a 2D side-scroller, and it's one of Mario's antagonists, but he's got his own series now. This one in particular is Wario Land 3. Love this game. The first time I actually played this game was on a computer. It was emulated, but when I seen this one show up, it was cheap, and I had to add it to my collection, so definitely this is one to have as well. Last but not least, I went back to eBay and I ordered this one back from Japan. The reason being is because it's a special edition. As I mentioned, the Game Boy Color games are also region free, so whether it's in Japan or France or Germany or North America, it will fit in the Game Boy Color machine and it will play. Region free. Love region free. This particular game is the only colorized version of this game because in North America we received only black and white, and it is Donkey Kong Land 3. And once again, Rare went the distance with this. The graphics are unbelievable. They look like 16-bit graphics on an 8-bit machine, a very small 8-bit machine. The music is impeccable. The gameplay, it's basically Donkey Kong Country 3, but their portable version of the game. There's some, they did some tweaking to it, but I had to add this to my collection. It's a colorized version. If I can zoom into this, it actually shows you. Yeah, the lighting's terrible. But I had to have this, but I have a sealed version. I have a playable version and a sealed version. This is my sealed version. I'm going to keep this sealed. It's not every day you get a version like this from Japan. I just happen to have two. But this is a must-have in your collection. It's a very fun game, but it's color, and that's what I like. It's got more character to it. It's done the game more justice, and the fact that they colorized it is amazing. So this is a must-have for any portable gaming collection as well. I can't emphasize enough. this is only the beginning. I have a moderate Game Boy collection. Some of the games that I do have is Super Mario Lands 1 and 2, obviously. Operation C, which is a Contra game. Fantastic game. It's challenging, but it has a lot of aspects borrowed from Super C. So it's a great game. It's a short game, but it's a fun game, and I'm glad I bought it. WWF Superstars is another one. It's a fun game. You don't have many characters to choose from, but I'll tell you, I had hours of fun with that. If you're a wrestling fan, hell, why not? Other games I have is Mortal Kombat 3. It's black and white, but with the Super Game Boy, you can add a little bit of color to it. Likewise with Rockman World 5 that I picked up in Japan, which would be Mega Man V in North America. With the Super Game Boy on the Super Nintendo, you can add some color to it. It gives it more depth, but the game has a lot of replayability and it's fun. Basically, that's what I love about all these games. They are fun. So, thank you for joining me. This kind of gives you a little glimpse into my collection. It's a work in progress, of course. I'm adding to my childhood, so now that I'm an adult, I have more time to focus on the games that I want, so I just wanted to share you the games that I have acquired so far. I think they're great pieces to add to anybody's portable collection, especially on a Game Boy system, be it the Gray Brick or Key Lime, the Game Boy Color. Thank you for joining me. If you like this video, if you want to see more, please click the subscribe button, follow my channel, hit the like button, because all these likes make it possible for me to want to continue these games, because I want to make sure that I'm producing content that is interesting to you, my viewers. So thank you very much for joining us again today. I hope this gives you a little bit of a start to your collection, maybe starts a little flame within you. And please subscribe, like I said. Tell your friends about the channel. If you like the content, let me know. Give me some feedback. And if you have some suggestions, too, for your Game Boy/Game Boy Color collection, games that I might be interested in, by all means, please, down below, comment and let me know some suggestions, and I'll happily read them and even respond. Thank you very much for joining me. This is JT, keeping it real, and these are my pickups for the Game Boy and Game Boy Color.